Too many things going on. Here we go. All right. Can you all see it? You see the Lucy's Warbler? Are we good to go there?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. All right. Hey, well, bird in the calendar. When you come to Tucson, if you're visiting from out of town and you're coming to Tucson in the month of March, or if you live here in Tucson or Oro Valley or Green Valley, and you're thinking about, all right, what do I want to go see this month? You know, you think about November, December, January, February, it's all about winter birds. It's cranes. It's going into the agricultural fields and looking for caracaras or mountain plovers. It's waterfowl. It's all those wintering sparrows that are here. And finally, we start getting some 80-degree weather like we're going to have next week, and we start feeling like, oh, it's spring. Things are going to change. And, you know, you think that these returning spring migrants are going to come sooner than they do. It always seems like I'm just itching, just moving a little too fast for the birds returning. But in March, they finally come back. They start coming back. And this Lucy's Warbler right here is one of those birds that we get to start seeing return back to their breeding grounds, along with Bell's Vireos. We started seeing Cassin's kingbirds come back in. We see Raptors like gray hawks come back. And so it's a really fun time. Lots of ash-throated flycatchers coming in. So there's a few things when it comes to March that I just want us to be aware of as we think about, all right, what's different about birding in March as opposed to the winter months of January, February. We start looking for those migrants, especially migrating raptors. And so we're going to talk quite a bit about just all the opportunities that come with seeing raptors like common Blackhawks and Swainson's hawks coming back through this area in the month of March. And another thing to be thinking about as you're walking around the trails and looking for birds in the mesquite trees, and you know, as birders, we always have our eyes kind of a little higher than the normal person. We aren't always looking at our feet, which means you know, not just tripping, but also you know, we want to keep our eyes a little bit lower maybe in March as the rattlesnakes start coming out. So this right here is a rattlesnake I saw last March, or no, it was 2 Marches ago in 2019 at our Mason Center up in Northwest Tucson. Beautiful Western Diamondback rattlesnake. But they definitely start really returning and are fairly prominent in the month of March. March and April are probably the months I see the most rattlesnakes. So just be aware of that. I guess it can be scary for some people, and for other people, it's like really exciting to see any sort of snake, let alone rattlesnake. But just be aware of that. I also think that March is probably my favorite month to go out hiking in the Sonoran Desert. So I'm going to touch on 2 different spots where you can, both one on the west side and one on the east side, where you go hiking out in Saguaro National Park area. You know, after good winter rain, which we really haven't had, if we had good winter rain, March is a great time for wildflowers coming up in the desert. I don't know what's going to look like this year, but March is just usually that time. But really, when it comes to March, the big thing that's happening in Southeast Arizona is hawk migration. And the place where most birders turn their eyes towards is in Tubac, the Tubac Hawk Watch, which is right near the De Anza Trail, right in the town of Tubac, which is about an hour south of Tucson. This is a picture of a little bit of what it looks like here. This is at Ron Morris Park, and I'm going to show you a map of where this is at. Actually, this morning we have one of my friends, Steve Vaughn, who has done a lot of raptor watching down here in Tubac. I would call him a raptor expert when I have issues with trying to figure out, all right, is it a Cooper's or sharp-shinned hawk? I mean, we all kind of deal with that kind of stuff. But if I have a raptor issue, Steve is going to be one of the people that I first contact. And Steve, you're with us today, and thank you for joining me and talking a little bit about raptor migration, and specifically down here in Tubac.
You bet.
So what I was wondering if you might be able to share a little bit of your history with raptors with folks as we begin. I'll go to the map and start showing people where this place is at, but you want to share a little bit about your expertise?
Sure. I started with raptors when I was 17, so that was 50 years ago. I hate to say that, but that's how many years it's been now. And my early birding experience, there were two types of birds. There was raptors and then everything else. I didn't even look at probably anything else until I was in college. Raptors are still my favorite things to look at. So the Hawk Watch down in Tubac is a place I go every year. I've led the Tucson Audubon field trip down there for 4 years until last year. And I guess we won't be doing it again this year since we're keeping our numbers down. But Tubac, it's an amazing place to go. A couple reasons is the entire month of March, Hawk Watch International has a counter down there, and he's one of the best I've ever been around. And he'll sit there and kind of call out when things are coming. He'll help you with IDs, answer questions. His name's Peter Collins. He's pretty much there every day. He normally gets there around 8 o'clock. It typically picks up around, well, between 8 and 9. What happens though is as it gets warmer, by 10 and 11, the birds are still coming through, but they're coming through higher. So it's kind of nice to get there earlier if possible. I mean, the three birds we kind of go down there for the Blackhawk, Zonetail, and Greyhawks. Blackhawks are really amazing in that they start kind of picking, well, over all the years of kind of looking back at the data, they've shown up pretty much every day of the month. But typically it's not till about March 6th that they really start showing up daily. Around March 15th, oh, there you go.
Check that out.
15th, they peak. And you'll see on March 15th on 2018, there were 134 Blackhawks coming through that day.
That's crazy.
And I was there that day, and it was the most amazing thing because you'd be there and there'd be a flock of 8 coming through or 10 coming through, and just like one after another. I mean, prior to going to Tubac Hawk Watch, I had seen 3 Blackhawks in my life. So I mean, going and seeing, 134 in a day, it was just unbelievable. So it's spectacular. Zonetail Hawks are also quite impressive, but they're not quite as numerous. The peak you'll see there was on March 16th of 14 birds. So if you're looking at this sheet, what you're seeing is the counts for each year by number, and then the number in green is the average. So you can see March 15th, Blackhawks averaged that day for 40 over the past 7 years. With Zonetails, they averaged 5.86. So 14 was their high count. So their counts are again, no place I know of where you can go and see 6 to 10 Zonetails in a day. The other bird that's there that comes through is the Greyhawks, but their numbers are much, much smaller. But what's cool about Tubac is about the time those Greyhawks start showing up, the breeding pairs along the river are there as well. So you can see Greyhawks pretty much all day long down there. Just by sitting at the Hawk Watch, they'll be coming up over the river. They will come flying right up over the group. Again, just there's no place like it in Arizona. I mean, this really does rival some of the Hawk Watches back east, like Cape May and Hawk Mountain and that I've also been to. I mean, the numbers aren't quite as high, but you're getting the 3 rare birds that most people can't find. So, and you can find them all in that window of about a week of mid-March. The other thing Tupac has is, I mean, there's 20 other species that come through there. So if you go to the Hawkwatch International website, and we can share these, yep, there we go. The other species that come through, nowhere near the kind of numbers except turkey vultures. I mean, you'll get 1,000 turkey vultures a year coming through there. Anywhere from 100 to 800 red-tailed hawks. A couple interesting things are the birds that kind of surprised me that are missing is a Broadway hawk. They've never had a Broadway hawk through there, at least in the 7 years of data I looked at. But they've had red-shouldered hawks. So for me, I find that kind of fascinating. And the other hawk that was missing that I kept thinking, why is it not there, is Mississippi kites. You get whitetail kites down there, but no Mississippi kites. So, but it's definitely a place worth going to. The other thing I find is there can be as many people there as hawks. So it can get pretty busy in mid-March. There'll be 100+ people down there too. So
yeah, I've seen that. It gets really crazy.
Yeah.
It probably won't be as busy this year. Did you go down there at all last year, Steve?
I did, but they closed it. So
they closed the park?
It was March. They closed the park. Yeah.
Okay.
So once they reported the park was closed, I didn't go down after they reported that. I just kind of respected their wishes. It's like, well, if they don't want people down there, I won't go.
Yeah. The park seems to be open now. I walked along the Danza Trail not too long ago, and there's people out using the park. So
yeah, I doubt they'll close it. You'll definitely want to mask up and just be cognizant of keeping your social distance. It could be hard when there's 100 people, but you don't have to stay with the group. You can move all around the park.
Yeah. And as you can see here, so here's Steve, the information that you put together for this is awesome. Thank you so much, man.
You bet.
So as you can see here, here's the town of Tubac. Here's I-19 as you come driving south from Tucson and you take the Tubac exit. You weave your way around down here. This is Bridge Road. So like if you're walking along the Danza Trail, you usually park right here along Calle Iglesia, right before Bridge, and access the Danza Trail here. And if you're going to go into Ron Morris Park, you just, instead of parking there, you can drive down here and park here in at the park. And you can see it's pretty wide open. So even if there's a lot of people there, there's most likely going to be opportunity to just physically distance yourself from folks. But like Steve said, there can be a lot of people who come over here and basically just park here, and just people bring lawn chairs and just kind of sit and watch to put your eyes towards the south, and the Raptors will be flying north over you. Some of them can be pretty high. Steve, are there any tricks to like spotting the Raptors as they start catching those thermals and pass by you?
You know, you just need to keep your binoculars out. Yeah. Again, or if you get there early in the morning, they will actually come down in the evenings and perch in the trees. So early in the morning, a lot of times they'll be circling literally right over the top of you. They'll come out of the trees and come right over the park. I think the other thing that's nice is the park, I think it's a location for thermals to rise. So they do almost come straight over your head. So you're just really looking south. As you can see, the folks are looking south, and they'll describe where they're coming. They'll talk about the relationship to them in relation to the trees there or the mountains on the right. Yeah, it's
pretty something.
Yeah, your neck will be sore at the end of the day.
Kind of like warbler neck, but hawk neck.
Exactly.
So like Steve shared, the common Blackhawk really is the star of the show. I love common Blackhawks because they have like these huge, wide, big, bulging secondaries. Their wings are just like so huge, and their tail looks so short. It reminds me a lot of a black vulture a little bit. but a Buteo, like a big, chunky, heavy Buteo. And when you compare it to like Zonetail, while superficially like the same color, they both have, usually looks like just a singular white band on their tail, even though I think Zonetail has multiple white bands on the tail. But a lot of times it can just look like one. But it's just like really slender, the Zonetailed is, and it'll look a lot more like a turkey vulture.
They look exactly like a turkey vulture. When you're watching them, until they get close enough for you to get a really good look at them, you can literally not tell them apart. I mean, I've spent the last 5 years down there trying to get my ability to separate those two sooner than later. And it takes a lot of practice. I can do it if they're flapping, because they flap much faster than a turkey vulture. But if they're just soaring and they're coming at you, it's a lot harder than you think it's going to be. If you look at the picture, you go, oh yeah, I can do that. But trust me, it's not that easy.
It's not. It's not.
Where are they migrating to? What is their final destination?
Yeah, I was gonna actually show that. So I'm gonna take us to look a little bit deeper at common Blackhawks. Oh, that's not it. There it is. Okay, so here's the Ebird site for common Blackhawk and their big range map here. So you can see they're wintering in Central America, Southern Mexico, Northern South America. If you go to Costa Rica, you probably see them in the winter down there. And then as they migrate north up to their breeding grounds, let's see if I can dig in here a little bit, show you. So we do have, there are a few pairs of common Blackhawks, I think, that probably nest down here in Southeast Arizona. I think there's usually one at Rose Canyon Lake up on Mount Lemmon. I've seen reports like Patagonia Lake State Park, maybe a few other locations, but they're fairly common breeders. Like this would be the Gila River, Verde River, Agua Fria, like these areas north of Tucson, so like around Mammoth, and then up into like Sedona and these areas up here. Oh. And so Prescott Valley, you see Sedona, south of Flagstaff. So the rivers that are up here, they really like to be near water. I think they eat like a lot of frogs, and they eat other aquatic animals, and that's one of their main things, I believe. But so don't have very many that nest down here in the Tucson area, but you can see this kind of darker little area right here. This is where Tubac is at. Is that a lot of the sightings are just in March in this Southeast Arizona area. Pretty awesome bird, and like Steve said, there's not too many. I haven't seen very many outside of what I've seen in March. Oh, another thing I was going to share. So you can see them migrating through, not just at Tubac, but during the month of March, you want to be checking out the different raptors that you see coming through in town too. So right in the city of Tucson, Sweetwater Wetlands, I've seen them there quite a few times, which is really interesting. See, I only have 7 sightings ever in common Blackhawk. You can see I had 12 one day on March 16th at Ron Morris Park. Evidently, I've only been there once. I thought I'd been there more than that. But see, Sweetwater Wetlands, March 11th, 2015, March 8th, 2017, March 20th, 2019. So it looks like every 2 years. So I guess I'm due this March. Maybe we'll get one on one of our walks this year. But it's always in that March timeframe. So just be mindful of it when you're out and about this coming month, to be looking for a big dark hawk, and then try to identify it as either zonetail or common blackhawk.
They're following the Santa Cruz, and they're also following the interstate north.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting how they love. I mean, birds love following rivers, don't they? For a number of reasons. There's a few that I think follow the San Pedro up, but not as many. But like Steve said, mostly the Santa Cruz rivers along there is where you're going to see them. All right. Oh yeah, Swainson's hawks come through later on in March. So like I was looking at Swainson's hawks numbers, and Steve, I don't know if you have anything to add here, but it looked like the 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st of March is when the Swainson hawk numbers really start popping up.
They're waiting for the insects. I mean, they're really an insect and small reptiles. So they're waiting for it to get warm enough. And once they get up to the breeding area, they get right down to breeding. So they actually do come through later than a lot of the other raptors.
And that's your golden eagle in here too, because golden eagle is one that I saw a couple of those when I was at the Hawk Watch the last time I was there. So just be looking for those. It's always fun to see golden eagles migrating through. And then while you're at the Hawk Watch, it's not just those that we talked about. Also keep your eyes out for white-faced ibis. That's March is the time of year when you start seeing flocks of ibis flying north. This is some ibis here. You can see like they're, even from far away, their long necks and their long legs that drag out behind them. That's a good indicator for ibis. Look for caracara, Chihuahuan ravens are moving through then too. Big flocks of ravens, and like Steve said, lots of vultures and both Coopers and sharp-shinned hawks coming through too. So it's pretty interesting when you're out there looking up in the sky for a while. There's a lot of movement in March when it comes to some of these migrants that you'll notice. Hey Jim, do we have any questions regarding the Hawk Watch or common Blackhawks or anything like that?
Yeah, just a couple here. Maybe Steve can address the parking down there, as specifically the handicap parking on Morris. And then the
Yes.
second question.
There's
Is
plenty
the
of parking
parks-
and it's flat. So yeah, it would be easily handicap accessible.
Okay. And then somebody asked about while you're down there, is the card still able to be seen north of there?
That's coming next. How about that? What a great question. Whoever asked that question is like reading my mind.
Nice segue.
Steve, do you have any last thoughts on raptor migration here?
Yep, no, I think we got it covered.
Sweet. Hey, thanks again for helping me out. It's always good to have friends who know what they're talking about. That's a huge, let me just share that. Like, that's a huge part of birding, especially, as you grow as a birder and you're thinking about things, like having people that you can ask questions and, mentors, and then also thinking about those people that are coming up behind you who may not know as much as you do, and being willing to share information in a way that's helpful, in a way that's empowering. And so we always want to position ourselves to be around both sets of people who know more than us and people who are learning from us and staying humble and all that. And you learn a lot from both those who have been birding a lot more, and from people who are just starting birding. But surround yourself with people that you can talk about these things with is really, really key in your growth as a birder.
Luke,
So
there's one quick question that came in here.
Yeah.
Is the flock size your go-to distinction characteristics between the common and Chihuahua raven, or is there another characteristic you look for in distinguishing them? I think that's a Steve question.
Yeah, that's Chihuahuan ravens and common ravens are tough.
We were discussing that at the Hawk Watch last year or year before last. And the kind of what we kind of all sort of agreed on, the common raven looks more like a T. The head and neck stick out further and the tail. So it looks more like a cross T like that.
Yeah.
Where a
Okay.
Chihuahuan raven, the head looks smaller.
Yeah, I could see that.
So it's a little bit different proportion, but it is so subtle that I can't do it yet.
Yeah, and I do think that if you're seeing a huge kettle of 100+ ravens, I mean, I don't take this as, all the time truth, but it's probably going to be Chihuahuan ravens if you see a huge kettle of ravens. I don't know. I think that's true. that's one that I would bring. That I'd ask more experts about that. I'm not fabulous with common and Chihuahuan ravens unless I hear them too. But I think that's a good remark that Steve said. So moving forward, because we could get into all the Chihuahuan and common raven stuff, that'd take a long time. De Anza Trail, while you're there at Ron Morris Park, yes, take the time to either before or after to go look for the Bacards. The Bacards are being seen right now, and as we get closer into breeding season, they're going to become more active. They're going to be building their nests. And going north from Ron Morris Park on the De Anza Trail, you cross the bridge and go north on the east side of the river. That's going to be the best area to look for the Bacards. I'll show that to you in a map here pretty soon. You're going to be looking for blobs, big nest blobs like this in the tops of the cottonwood trees. This is a rose-throated Bacard nest. Looks like a big football mass that's hanging down from the end of a branch, usually, somewhere over the creek or something like that. They stand out pretty good, and the nests stand out pretty good, but Bacards don't. So you just kind of got to be patient and look for movement. But I'll show you real quick how to get to that spot. There we go. So here's Ron Morris Park. Here's Bridge Road. This is where I normally park to access the De Anza Trail. I'll park right here. There's like a nice little parking area. Access the De Anza Trail here. You just cross Bridge Road. And you'll walk over here. You can see where the little trail is at. And the trail goes north on the west side of the river, but there's actually another little side trail that goes over. And if it's not wiped out by a flooding, there's a little footbridge that goes over the river right here. So you cross over the footbridge, and then there's a trail that goes north on the east side of the creek, of the rivers. Not a big river, that's why I called it creek, but there's a trail that goes on the east side as you go up here. And as you walk north on it, you'll come close to where this golf course is at. You'll kind of start seeing some golf course stuff. And right around in here is where you're going to really want to start to look. So it's about 1/2 mile to 3/4 of a mile north of this bridge road. It's really flat walking, and just be looking up in the cottonwoods, look for those nests, and just take your time looking up there. If you want more information on Bacards, feel free to reach out to me about that. All right. There's other places to go birding besides the Hawk Watch and the De Anza Trail in March. And there's actually a lot of, there's so many different cool places you could go this month. But I really suggest going for a little walk, a little hike in the Sonoran Desert. And why March? Why walk the Sonoran Desert in March as opposed to the winter or the summer? Well, I'll tell you, once you get into April and May, it starts getting a lot hotter out there in the Sonoran Desert. And what I find is that March is just kind of like that middle time where you could go at any time during the day. You could go in the morning, you could go in the afternoon, you could go in midday, and the Sonoran Desert is just really amazing. And like I said, if there's good rains, which there isn't really that much good rain, winter rain this year, but the flowers will start coming out. And one of my favorite walks to do is over on the west side of Tucson in Saguaro National Park West. It's at the end of El Camino del Cerro. So if you've done any driving between around Tucson on I-10, you'll notice that there's a lot of construction going on at El Camino del Cerro and Ruth Roth. That's normally the exit you would take to get to this trailhead. But what you have to do now is get on to, and I'll show you on a map here real soon, is get on to Silver Bell, access Silver Bell off of Grant, and then go north on Silver Bell, take a left on El Camino del Cerro, and drive to the very end of that road, and you get to a big open parking lot. And from that parking lot, you have a trail system that goes out from there. You can see here, this is what the trail looks like. It's rocky in certain places. It's not super easy hiking, but it's not hard hiking necessarily either. So, and if you go for a mile, or you could hike all the way to Wasson Peak, which I think is about like a 8-mile round trip or something like that. So you just have a lot of different options, and it's beautiful saguaro habitat. Let's see, you can see, took a picture here in the brittle bush on this little sign here, and it has all the maps and everything. So this is right there by the parking area. They make it super easy for you to travel around on the trails. I did see new signs there that say that it's closed after dusk. So I've been there after dusk and to look and listen for elf owls. And that's the first time I've seen those signs there. So I don't know if they're starting to close that, but I was going to say this is one of my favorite spots to look for elf owls as they return in March. Before I get to the elf owls, let me show you just on the map where to go for this. I think it's nice to be able to see it on a map. So I'm going to show you. Come back up to Tucson. Here's Saguaro National Park in Tucson. And so here's Grant. Everyone usually knows where Grant is at. And so you just take the Grant exit and take Silver Bell Road as it goes north on the west side of the Santa Cruz River. Look for common Blackhawks as you drive up the road, I guess. But keep your eyes on the road. And you'll take a left on El Camino del Cerro. And it's a pretty fun little drive as you start going up El Camino del Cerro. It kind of weaves its way around here, and you're driving through some really big saguaro stands, and you just keep going and you keep going. You'll see signs for El Camino del Cerro Trailhead. You can see it right here, and it's at the very end of the road. You can see right here, it ends right in this parking lot. And so you just park here, and you can access the Sweetwater Trail right on the west end of the parking lot. And it just goes for like maybe a little less than a quarter of a mile, and you get to a T. And from here, you can go up north. Usually I'll go to the south. And if you follow the Sweetwater Trail far enough, it'll take you to Wasson Peak, but you don't have to go that far. There's a nice little wash here where you could maybe find black-chinned sparrows sometimes in the winter, all the way into March. Of course, lots of black-throated sparrows, rufous-winged sparrows, black-tailed gnatcatchers. But two birds that really stand out to me at this spot, I'm going to show you, are these two, Gilded Flicker and elf owl. So I think this is my best spot for Gilded Flickers anywhere in Tucson, except for when I went there the other day at about 3:30 in the afternoon. It was super duper windy. and I did not see any gilded flickers that day. But other than that, every time I've been there, I've had gilded flickers. It's one that when people are coming from Tucson, I've heard from a lot of people, it's actually been a pretty tough bird for them. Not tough like Montezuma quail tough, but a fairly tough bird to find. And so this El Camino del Cerro trailhead is really one of the best spots for it. And it's also where I normally get my first elf owl of the year. If it's not at Sabino Canyon is another spot where I'll normally go about, I would say like around March 26th, March 20th, maybe like 20th, and then on is when you can, elf owls will start coming in. And so at this location or at Sabino Canyon or the next spot that I'll show you are good spots to find elf owls. I'm gonna stop my share. I forgot to do something. Share my sound. I don't know. Have you ever heard of elf owl before? Let's play elf owl. This is what you're gonna be listening for. Like a little laugh. A little laugh that you're going to be listening for. And what I like to do is get out about maybe a half hour after dusk and just kind of walk along the trail. And yeah, you can have a flashlight with you or not, but I just like to go somewhere and just kind of wait and listen for elf owl and try to get out there on a night when it's not windy, a night that's a little bit warmer, and they'll be out and about. You don't have to call for them or anything. Normally, when they get onto their breeding grounds right away, they'll be pretty vocal themselves. They're really tough to find, even if you hear them, and they're actually usually closer than what you think. You'll hear them and you'll think, oh, maybe that's 30 yards away, but in reality, it's only like 10 yards away. They're kind of like ventriloquists that way. But you know, you could see them. A lot of times I like to just listen for them. I don't even have to really see them. I just like listening for them. But March is the best time as to see and hear them as they come in from migration. But yeah, I would suggest not playing any calls for them unless you're doing a survey or something like that. You know, they're just finishing migration and they're trying to rest up and trying to, you know, just work their way into their breeding grounds. Also, Gila Flicker, a lot of times you'll hear them before you see them. So you'll want to be listening for them like this. Couple different noises that they make. Fairly similar to Northern Flicker, but I think like a little bit more spookier. Does that make sense? Whoop. Okay, before we get into Bridal Reef, let's go into Bridal Reef Falls. So if you're in Tucson and you live on the west side, El Camino del Cerro is the spot that I would go to. If you live on the east side, or maybe you live in the middle and you want to go to both east and west Saguaro, Bridal Reef Falls and Douglas Spring Trailhead on the east side is my favorite spot to go hiking in East Saguaro National Park. And so this starts at the end of Speedway. Speedway is one of those main roads that is in Tucson. And you drive, just like you drive to the end of El Camino del Cerro, you drive to the end of Speedway. And at the end of Speedway, you'll see the Douglas Spring Trailhead. It's a pretty popular trailhead, more popular than El Camino del Cerro. So if you want to go hiking there, you get there early to get a parking spot, or get there later in the afternoon after people have left. But it can be a really cool hike to Bridal Reef Falls. It's about 2.5 miles from that trailhead. And you can see there's a little bit of water. This was in March of last year, or maybe this was early April or March of last year. And my wife is posing there. And we actually saw a ringtail here this day in the late afternoon, which was amazing. But again, another good spot for gilded flicker. You can walk around out there in the evening and listen for elf owl. It's also a great spot for western screech and great horned owl. Right as you take the little spur to Bridal Reef Falls off of the main Douglas Spring Trailhead, there's a nice little wash through there with a lot of good habitat for black-chin sparrow, rufous crown sparrow, ash-throated flycatcher. Again, it's not a easy hike, but my 13-year-old daughter at the time was able to do it without crying too much. So I think, for most of us, we, have the opportunity to go out there if that's something you want to do. But those are my two favorite spots to go hiking in March. Before, the high elevation hikes really aren't going to provide a whole lot of bird species. It's still fairly cold up there. You could still run into snow. And you've done a lot of the really low elevation, like riparian stuff during the winter. And so March is a time to get out into the Sonoran Desert, in my opinion. Jim, any questions about those areas?
Yeah, just a couple here. On the El Camino del Cerro, the sign you had there down the right-hand corner said fee area. Are these national parks then? US
Yeah,
fee
this is
area?
in the national park. So yeah, I see that now. There's not a fee, there's not a like a kiosk or anything there to pay to park there. And I didn't actually see anything that says pay here. So I've actually never paid there to park and walk out there, either at this one or at Douglas Spring. I could be in the wrong there though, so maybe we need to look at that. I actually didn't see that.
You don't normally have to pay to hike the trails in the park. Like if you go to Cerro East and you go up to a Speedway or into Broadway, you don't need to pay to go in there. You don't need
Yeah,
a permit.
that was always my impression.
Yeah.
And then Kim, when you mentioned the Sabino Canyon, for the elf owls, Kim wants to know where in Sabino Canyon were the elf owls?
Good question. Yeah, I'll show you. So I mean, I can't show you exactly where they were at, but here's what I would do. Because Sabino Canyon is, you have one option on the west, one option on the east, and if you want to go hiking, that's Udall. That's the wrong one. Where am I at here? Here's Sabino. And if you want to go more in the foothills, here's Sabino Canyon. All right. So here's the visitor center, bookstore. I'll go to satellite. It's a little bit easier for me. This is your big parking area right here. So when I go to Sabino to listen for elf owls, I'll park here and I'll walk up the road. This is one of my family's favorite things to do. Really, end of March all the way through August, almost once a month, we'll park there and walk this road all the way up into Sabino Creek, Sabino area. And normally where I hear the elf owls, you can hear the elf owls right here on the Bajada, on this upper, like, this kind of area here with all the saguaros. Normally where I'll hear them is a little bit further up, kind of in here. And you just walk through there at dusk and you just kind of pay attention, be listening. You'll probably also hear great horned owl. You're more likely to hear a lot of common porwheels. Common porwheels love to, they'll come, they're like elf owls. They'll come about the same time and they call a little bit sooner than elf owls do. So like right at dusk is when porwheels will start doing their little call. And so I've walked up here and heard elf owls just pretty much all the way through here. And then I've also heard them one time, instead of walking up the road, I took this little trail over here and just kind of took my time walking through here, and can hear them through here as well. Anywhere there's saguaros, anywhere there's, saguaros or oak trees, that the elf owls really like that. And of course, elf owl is really common as in Madera Canyon as well. So if you live in Green Valley, like going from between Proctor and the Santa Rita Lodge, you can find elf owls through there too. Right around my birthday, right around the end of March. Anything else there, Jim?
No, that's it. Just a comment that probably the best thing is to support the national parks and buy a national park pass, and then you're all clear.
I think that's a great comment. Yeah, they need our support, and if we work around it, it does no good to any of us.
You can leave it on your dash and then they know you've got one.
There you go, Nancy. There you go. All right. I think I have time for a little bit more here. Yes, I do. Okay. So I always like to talk about a park in town that maybe would be good to visit. It doesn't get a whole lot of birding glory. In fact, I took my son here to this place the other day, to Rio Vista Natural Resources Park. It's at the end of Tucson Boulevard. And he was like, "Dad, this place isn't that great." And I was like, "Yeah, it is. This place is awesome." But this is a park that I would suggest going and visiting in the month of March. It's, like I said, it's at the end of Tucson Boulevard. I guess that's kind of the theme for today, going to the end of roads. You go to the end of El Camino del Cerro, you go to the end of Speedway, and here you go to the end of Tucson Boulevard. I'll show you on the map here in a little bit. But the end of Tucson Boulevard puts you right out along the Rio River. And what I found at this park here in March is that it is my go-to spot to find my first Lucy's Warbler of the year. So, I go to El Camino del Cerro for my first elf owl. I'll go to Tubac for my first gray hawk and my first common Blackhawk. And then I'll go here to Rio Vista for my first Lucy's Warbler. Oh, and I'll go to Sweetwater for my first Bell's Vireo. March is a great time for Bell's Vireo too. And you can get Bell's Vireo here at Rio Vista as well. This is what the parking area looks like. I just park right there's kind of like a playground area over here, and as you can see over, as you look north of this, you're looking south here at the parking lot, but as you look north, you're looking at like some grassy area, and then there's a whole trail system that goes out into these mesquite trees. It looks kind of barren over here, but as you start walking towards the east, it becomes a little bit thicker in some areas, and those are awesome spots for Lucy's Warbler. So it looks like this. As you get on the trail, you see there's some signage out there. This is a little sign about coyote pups, and you can see all the mesquites. And so, if you come like around like March 13th, you can see it's a lot of mid-March. I think maybe the earliest Lucy's Warbler I ever had, I have it on here, was March 6th here at Rio Vista. But, I'll come out here a few times in March and just be listening and looking for them. This is what a Lucy's Warbler sounds like. Not the Gila Flicker. Real tall. So you can hear in the background there, mourning doves, Gila woodpecker. Those are the same sort of birds you would hear as you're out here looking for Lucy's Warbler, along with phainopepla, ash-throated flycatcher. Great spot for brewer's sparrow. So if you brewer's sparrow is not like a real beautiful sparrow, but it's this is a great spot for them, and sometimes they can be kind of hard to find where they're at in the winter. I found that Rio Vista is like one of the best spots for sparrows right in town. And you can meander around these trails. There's people who ride their horses through here too. So there, it gets, you know, I mean, it's like any park in Tucson, it gets some use, but it's a great spot. And, you know, we were there for like 20, 30 minutes yesterday, and we had 20 species. Besides Lucy's warblers, the other bird that you're really going to want to look for here is usually around, is you got the Rio River here, and you got these big towers. Peregrine falcons love this area. Had 2 peregrine falcons there the other day chasing around rock pigeons. It was awesome to watch. They're right around this specific tower right here. You can see these houses on the other side of the river. And so you want to check the towers, not just for peregrines, but also there's a chance for prairie falcon. In March, there's still a chance for merlin at this park. Harris's hawk can be, I wouldn't say common, but really regular at Rio Vista. Of course, lots of red tails, Cooper's hawks. So a good amount of raptors and sparrows and ash-throated flycatchers and Lucy's warblers, and tons of phainopeplas that are nesting this time of year. So, let me show you the map. Do that. So here's Tucson. And Tucson Boulevard, if you're not familiar, is right to the east of Campbell. Campbell's one of the big roads here in Tucson. And the next kind of major block is Tucson Boulevard. And you go north on Tucson Boulevard all the way to the end. You can see Rio Vista Natural Resource Park right here. And it does a little curve. There's a little bike entrance right here that takes you to the loop. You got the whole Tucson loop right here. But you come in here and park, and I'll show you what this looks like here. You can see the main park right here, which is great for vermilion flycatchers or western bluebirds could be there. And you can see how the trail system is all through here. You want to kind of follow along where some of you see major mesquites. So right around through here on the southern part. I like this kind of central, this is right around where that little kiosk thing is at, where it talks about the coyotes. That's a good spot. And then as you come up here on the backside of these houses, you can walk along through here, and up in here is another really good spot for Lucy's warbler. And then where I saw the peregrine falcons is on the other side of the river, right over here. On this side, on this east side, there's some old eucalyptus trees, and a lot of times could be where you see Harris's hawk, either there or right around in this area, right near where you park. It's a good spot for Harris's hawk. Any questions there, Jim?
No, but quick question on the houses that you just showed up there. Are those private or houses, or are those part of the park, or what?
Yeah, these are, I never really understood. I've never really wanted to get real close to them. I think they're private houses, but I don't really quite understand. It's a park area, but there's also houses there. So I just don't walk around the houses, or I just kind of walk around, I don't get up too close, but it looks like they're private houses. It's weird.
That's really it. Mike's answered a few of the questions for us. So.
Right, cool. Okay, so I always like to end this this talk with what the rare bird of the month is. Any guesses for rare bird of the month? Oh shoot, I clicked it too soon. I wasn't supposed to do that. All right, well, I gave it away. Slate-throated redstart. Now, slate-throated redstart may not be one you think about as a rare bird for the month of March. In fact, maybe there's only been one ever seen in the month of March in the Southeast Arizona area. But it's actually the first rare bird that I ever saw in Tucson when I moved here. And it was in March of 2015. And it was at a spot that I'm going to be talking about a lot next month for the month of April. I was going back and forth about talking about Gordon Hirabashi Campground and Sycamore Reservoir Trail for the month of March. But as I was looking at things, It looks like I've had better luck in April with Scott's Orioles and scrub jays and all sorts of really cool black-chin sparrows and other birds that I'll talk about next month. But this bird, slate-throated redstart, was seen at Gordon Hirabashi Campground, which is as you go up Mount Lemmon in March of 2015. I have this pulled up right here. So here's Tucson, and here's the Mount Lemmon Road, Catalina Highways that goes up to Mount Lemmon, and Gordon Hirabashi Campground. And it was for a few days. I think it was, just 2 days, March 19th and March 20th of 2015. But you never know if it might come back again. So, be ready to find your, not a painted redstart, but a slate-throated redstart in the month of March. It would be incredible if one came back again. Keep your eyes open for it. It's got these really nice white starts on the back of the tail, just like a painted redstart. This is a bird that would normally be found in like Costa Rica, Central America. And every once in a while, one will pop up into Southeast Arizona. So you'll be a star birder if you find one of these in the month of March. Something to think about. Any questions?
Janet asked, are painted redstarts around in March? And what about red-throated warblers?
Yeah, so red-faced warblers, no, they don't come until later in April, really late April. Painted redstarts, yes, lots of painted redstarts in the month of March. In fact, there are more painted redstarts here during breeding season, but some do overwinter here as well. So if you look at painted redstart here, this is all years. You can see tons, or year round. But if you change in Ebird to just March, we'll see what pops up. You can see maybe not as prevalent as some other times, but I would say probably, let's see, that's it. Let's see. I would say this spot right here, General Hitchcock Campground, would probably be the spot where I would go. And you're not going to see a lot of 2020 sightings in March, and I think we all know why, because not very many people got out in 2020. But you can see, like here if you look at 2018, like March 17th, 2019, March 26th, so 2016, you have them at the very beginning of March 3rd, so, but only one. So you can see there's more that start coming in at the end of March. So really, I would suggest if you're looking for painted redstart at the end of March is a lot better. You start getting a lot better chance of finding them. So back, the Hawk Watch, that's the spot for March. And I know there's a lot of other good spots throughout this coming month that, if you're looking for elegant trogon, or if you're looking for, other birds that if you're coming from out of town, you can find those too. And if you're looking for information on a specific bird, just let me know. But if I had to choose, those are the places I would go for the month of March. Any other questions before we sign off here? Oh, Daniel, let's see. Cedar waxwings at Reed Park. You keep looking for them, but don't see them. You know what? I went there a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't see them either, but I keep on seeing people post about cedar waxwings there. So, they're nomadic. They move around a lot. if I remember right, the place to look for them is there's some olive trees right next to the dog park, and that's where most people are seeing them, I believe. Don't give up. And then the wood ducks at Sweetwater. So I saw the wood ducks at Sweetwater on Wednesday morning. They're out in one of the recharge basins. Most of the time when I see them, they're tucked back, sitting on a log or something underneath the foliage on the edge of the pond. So just watch the edge of the ponds, especially the shadowy areas. Wood ducks love to kind of like tuck themselves back into those areas and stay hidden. So yeah, don't give up on that one either.
Thanks so much, Lou. Really appreciate it.
Yep. Any other questions? I got a little bit of time before I have to run, but it's been good. Yeah. All right. It looks like Tom, south of the Big Pond Reed Park for cedar waxwings near the Rose Garden. You know, I have people telling me that all the time, but they move around. Hopefully you'll see him. Hopefully I'll see him next time I'm there too. They won't be around for much longer though. Cedar waxwings, they'll head up north and breed in other places. So, all right. Well, thank you all. If no more questions, thank you, especially Steve, for helping me out with all the Hawk Watch stuff at Tubac. Steve shared a couple different Excel spreadsheets with me that I'll include as attachments in the follow-up email. So big props to him. Thank you, Jim, for helping me with all the questions. Really appreciate that as well. And have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you. Great talk.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care. See you guys later.